Mindful Training Limited. Welcome, Sean.
Thanks a lot, John. Thanks. Great to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
And it's also great to have you here, Sean. Sean, what I'd like to do, because you seem to, the bits and pieces I've picked up on, is had this, about 10 years ago, had this sudden transition. And it's been a bit of a journey for you. So I just wonder if you could let our listeners know with regards to what brought about this transition and why you are where you are now.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's. I think I'm really lucky. I've been through some really tough times. 20 years ago, gosh, it seems so long now. 20 years ago, I was a corporate banker. So I worked for HBOS, HSBC, Lloyd's over a 10-year period. And then in 2008, I was made redundant. And my life as a corporate banker was I was never intended to be a corporate banker. I just didn't know it. I was chasing the money, I was chasing the career, I was chasing the position, the fast cars, all that sort of stuff. And whilst I got it, and we had it every year, and we were being rewarded with, trips to south of France and everything, it was still leaving me completely empty. And it was brilliant whilst you were in the south of France, but it was rubbish when you're back here, 300 days of the year when you're doing all the hard work and stuff that's on your own. No social life, jetting up and down the country. Doesn't matter what car you're in, because you're inside it so much, it just becomes another car. So my hand was full.
Sean, an interesting point here, if you don't mind me interrupting, but
yeah.
First of all, you used the phrase "it was rubbish." I wonder what made it rubbish in your mind, so our listeners can understand. Because some people might say running up and down and a nice beamer is not a bad life. So what made it rubbish for you?
Yeah, it's well, I think it's because I completely lacked self-awareness. Really, it was a case of I went chasing what I grew up being conditioned to chase, which was the career, and to get as high and as fat. And I was a competitive, always been ultra competitive. So I was always competing against my best mate. So we used to rise in whatever company we worked for. So we'd always compete against each other. And so I just went into life with the wrong ethics, morals. I didn't even know my values, didn't have a purpose, and just went chasing, just the things that were just there, transitory stuff. I never looked deeper within myself, and I never realized about, fulfillment, about what true happiness could be, about, working, what actually made me happy, which is working with people. I never knew that.
Yeah, it just seems to be a common thread I hear about when people chase something that doesn't really hold true to their heart, their values, the things that really they hold value to. And we sort of go on this journey, and it's things sort of fall apart, but at the same time, they're being revealed to us. And it sounds like you've been on this very similar kind of journey with things were beginning to be revealed to you while you were in this rubbish position.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. It's only through reflection that we look back and we think, well, thank goodness I was made redundant along with 25,000 of my colleagues in 2008 when the world crashed, and I'm given no choice in the matter. So, excuse me, I went through a really bad 2 years, and then came out of that with, after meeting my present day mentor, who asked me a question, which was, what makes you happy? And that was the most important question that I was ever asked in my life. So we just talked and made plans about taking the first step into doing what it is that makes me happy, which has brought me to where I am today.
Well, Sean, what a great lead in. So tell us a little bit about what you are doing today and what makes you happy.
Right. So in the last decade, I've just built my knowledge, different skills, behaviors, and got into becoming an accredited mindfulness practitioner and a mental health first aid trainer for MHFA England, which is the most wonderful thing that I do, which is to create mental health first aiders in the workplace and create mentally healthy workplaces. It's the best thing that's ever happened, and to me, and that I do with other people. You get such a wonderful experiences with people, and then latterly, I'm going to become a suicide prevention trainer as well. So building my knowledge and skills, obviously, down there, because that's where the journey probably leads to through mental health. And I've been doing well-being sessions for key workers through this time. So I've done about 800 to 900 voluntary well-being sessions for key workers, where we've been talking about how they're feeling and just helping them make sense of the world that we currently live in, the tremendous work pressures that they've never faced before, and then helping them to access help or resources to keep them going and to keep their batteries as full as possible, or to recognize when they're being hit, their batteries aren't full and they are drained, and they do need to do something about it.
Which is important in itself, isn't it? Yeah, it's been able to identify that and re-energize yourself. But listening to you, because you obviously sound quite passionate about your subject, which is great to hear, but you obviously also find it rewarding as well.
The best thing now, it's a 180 flip that I've done. So I used to chase the money when I was in the banks, and now you never think about the money. The money comes as a result. It just appears in your bank. What you worry about, well, not worry, what you spend your time on is concentrating on the people and the outcomes, and just working on that present moment, and answering the questions, facilitating knowledge discovery, challenge, so that people have a really good, positive experience and discover all these wonderful things that they didn't know, they may have known, or they may never have come to know without us all being together and doing some training on mental health and talking about, suicidal ideation or depression or anxiety or anything else.
It sounds like what you're doing is almost evolving. So you sort of you got trained in the mental health training, and then you've seen this. People have obviously spoken to you, and of course, people are going through vast changes now. Some people are able to cope with these changes, other people crumble, and as a consequence to that, you're obviously trying to prevent people from crumbling, but also looking at suicide prevention. It sounds like a very evolving process for you. Yeah, and what kind of training?
I mean, mental health first.
I was just going to ask you if you could tell us about the kind of training that you're doing with regards to it.
Right. So what we do is we work on the complete framework. So if we're working with an organisation, then mental health first aiders are one part of the framework. So what we do is we work in kind of three waves. So we work with the organisation to identify the gaps. So we do a training or a needs analysis to identify any gaps that they have for their mental health policies, frameworks, and support that they have for their employees. Then we put in training for, say, mental health first aiders. So we have a network of mental health first aiders around the organisation who can act as almost peer mentors. Then we work on the policies, procedures, and frameworks at the same time, so that they become not only compliant. Compliance is one thing, but we make it live and breathe, so that they've got a really, the HSE have changed their legislation. So we need to have a separate mental health policy, which includes things like, suicide prevention, what we do in the case of. So we work with people on that to help them not only become compliant, but to help it live and breathe, so that it actually helps people proactively rather than reactively. And then we sweep in with doing more training, which is the shorter training, which will be the awareness. And we do that for as many employees as we possibly can. And that helps people have the conversations. It helps people talk about how they're feeling. It helps get rid of the stigma. We've got presenteeism, for example, when people go in and they shouldn't be in work, and your head's just not there. Right, you've suffered a bereavement or anything else, and that presenteeism accounts for twice as many losses than actually physically being absent and recovering from the office. So, but people feel under expectations, or their own expectations, or company expectations to go in. So it's about making an environment where people feel that they don't have to, that they can stay off, say, for 2-3 days, maybe a week, but at least they don't lose 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks of presenteeism, and they get that help, that support, and recover.
That's great. And what a great phrase. It made so much sense to me, and then now that you actually said it, but I've not heard of it before, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah.
But
The
anyway,
big,
so
yeah.
what I'd like
Sorry.
to do is, it sounds like a great and fascinating journey that you've been on to, but I'm also mindful that we're beginning to approach Christmas, and I wondered for perhaps for some of the listeners here, whether perhaps there's a small mindful exercise that you get with thinking about all the pressures and the build-up for Christmas, and particularly this year, people are under pressure anyway. So I wonder if you could give them some great tips.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I think when it comes to Christmas, you know, we're going through something we've never gone through before, and that's why we've got so much pressure. People are reacting adversely, whereas they never would do in their normal lives. So Christmas is a chance for a reset. It's a chance for recharge. It's a chance just to do something mindfully, actually mindfully. And this could be things like, you know, throughout December, spending each day waking up, and your first thoughts are to breathe intention into that day. So spend December leading up to Christmas just breathing an intention. What do you intend to do? Something positive in the day. So then when you reach Christmas, you can reflect and look back on the month where you've actually achieved something. It can just be feeling happy for most of those days, not every day, because that's not realistic for some people, but you've done something of value. So start the day by breathing intention into it. And then instead of just going out to, you know, especially in lockdown, just walking, take a mindful walk, slow your pace down, feel the pressure on your feet as you walk past it, as you walk down the street. So you feel the pressure on the foot pass from heel to toe as the pressure just goes through the foot. Take in everything around you. Look at everything above and around, the clouds and everything. Take it all in. If you live by the beach as I do, then take the beach in and listen to the waves and take that lovely appreciation of nature. Take time to mindfully cook or bake. We have the bake off on now, which everybody's talking about. So indulge yourself in a wee bit of baking and theme it in Christmas. And then when we are baking or cooking, you can just lose yourself in that process and nothing else exists. So that can be wonderful. And then take time to also recharge. So do let yourself have some quiet time. You don't always have to be thinking or pacing or thinking about things that may not come off, or ruminating over things that you have experienced. You can accept and let go. Christmas is a great time to do this, to become present. And finally, really instill a mindful routine every day. Get a routine that works over Christmas, throughout December. Manage that digital fix. Give yourself a break from your digital devices, even if it's just half an hour or an hour a day. Then give yourself a break and just do something that gives you some sense of happiness. And that can be anything. It can be relaxing. It can be trying a new sport. It can be exercise, yoga, meditation. It can be anything you want. If you've never done it, give it a go. We can't scoff or laugh at these things until we actually have a go and see what the effect is.
I'm a great believer in experience and the transference of knowledge.
Yeah.
But for the uninitiated, Sean, can you explain what being mindful is? Besides actually what you've explained for them to do, what are we doing by being mindful?
Right. So it can be very simple. There are many definitions of mindfulness, and the ones that I choose always reflect just being able, not being in the present moment all the time, because we can't do that. That's impossible. We're human. That's forget that. But when you choose, and choice is massive for me, and that's what gives us the power and control over our lives. So when we choose, it's about choosing to be just in this present moment without bias or judgment, and just accepting where we are, accepting what has been, taking the growth and learning out of that, and just then being able to, if we want to think and future focus, but doing it positively. So doing some of those things like traveling, that we've obviously talked about, thinking about 2021 and future focus into that wonderful holiday that we're going to have with the family. And so I then give myself control over my emotions, my feelings, my thoughts, and therefore my actions.
Okay, well, thanks for that clarity, Sean. I appreciate that, and great advice for some techniques that people can use over Christmas to try and stop their anxiety, their worries, or the stresses that they may feel by bringing them into the moment. Because I suppose really that's what it's all about. It's that ability to let go.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yes. Yeah, 100%.
Okay, well, Sean, if people want to contact you, how do they contact you?
I'm on LinkedIn, so if you search for Sean Liddell MHFA, then I'm so far the only Sean Liddell MHFA on there. The website is www.mindfultraining.ltd. Excuse me. And then as soon as you get to know me, I'll give you my phone number, and then we're in contact anytime you want. So you can WhatsApp me, phone me, email me, Sean@mindfultraining.ltd, or whatever you want. I'm always happy to hear from people.
Oh, sure. Well, look, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your tips at Christmas. And I'm probably the very first person to do this, but because this will be a Christmas edition, may I wish you a joyful Christmas to you and your family.
And Merry Christmas. Thanks a lot, John. Really.